Welcome to Nice Girls Finish First. It's year 2024, and this is episode 1 of this season.
Roses don't heal overnight.
I'm going to be looking and referring to my outline that I've made to keep this organized, so please excuse me if I'm not always looking at the camera. To begin, is love a basic human need? The need to be loved, as experiments have shown, could be considered one of our most basic and fundamental needs. One of the forms that this need takes is contact comfort, the desire to be held and to be touched. John 4:8 says, "Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love." So this podcast is titled Nice Girls Finish First, because I am a nice girl, but now I am a nice woman, now that I am older.
I'm a woman, oh yes. 'Cause I'm a woman, I'm a very fucking brave, strong woman. And I'll be damned if I let a man ruin how I talk, how I do it. Man, I've been broken for
This definitely is about men as well, because there are nice guys out there in this world. I know a very nice guy. One of the nicest guys I know is my good friend. He has actually been single for 13 to 14 years after his last toxic relationship.
Roses don't heal overnight.
And I've interviewed him in the past on previous podcast seasons. And of course, I will be interviewing him in the future. So stay tuned for that. So this podcast is about all things love and life, especially mental health.
You're crazy.
This can be considered free therapy, if you will. I am single and I am 30 years old, 30, flirty, and thriving. Why listen to me if I am single at 30? That's what you're probably wondering. Even though I'm single at this age, I have finished first due to a lot of reasons. I have learned so much about life and love through experience. I get to share my stories and my knowledge to hopefully help others, prevent others from going through what I've been through, help others that are going through what I've been through, teach others that are just curious about what I've been through. Not necessarily teach, but add some commentary and real life perspective on real life relationships and love. I've had many blessings in life. Oh, number 3, I've had many blessings in life. Shout out to the man upstairs.
She got the toys I would play with in my room by myself while he by himself. He got 2 older brothers.
I have great family and friends. I do know how to maintain healthy relationships. Not all the time, but most of the time. I take care of my mental health and my physical health. My Instagram name is @healthnuthalls, and it's been that way for a few years, and I'm certainly a health nut, whether it be for my mind or my body. My values align with my actions most of the time. Obviously, this podcast is around for a reason, because I'm definitely not perfect. I am human. I've had a wonderful career. I've had a wonderful education. I know how to live in the present. That's 10 reasons already why maybe this podcast and me as the podcast host can be valuable to you. I enjoy the simple pleasures in life. That's number 11. I enjoy my hobbies. When it comes to relationships, I have never settled. That has not always been my choice, of course, because I have not been the only one to actually do the breaking up. I am not married to the wrong person currently. I don't have children yet out of wedlock. Not that that's a bad thing at all, because I've definitely dated men with children. I have extra time for self-care, being my age and being single, which is wonderful. I do not care what other people think about me. You can judge all you want, because that is your own issue and not mine. I am always on a path of self-improvement. I am resilient. There's so many I can't keep count. I know how to adapt to change. My life has changed a lot at multiple stages, and I know how to adapt. I'm currently in a new rental.
Hope I really get to see 30. Wanna settle down, stop being so
That's
flirty.
some big change. Absolutely. I'm currently going through that right now. I am absolutely okay with the fact that I am not perfect, and I love my imperfections. Having patience is key. I've learned that over the years. And having grace in God's plan is also key. Now,
See, and all of these emotions are
the
pouring
reason
out of me.
this is real life, and this is the real me, and I'm here to tell my story and hopefully shed light on some very dark times and situations that you may also be going through, or you may know someone who is going through the same thing. Quote, "We think sometimes we're only drawn to the good, but we're actually drawn to the authentic. We like people who are real more than those who hide their true selves under layers of artificial niceties." By Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Moving on to the legality of my podcast. As an auditor, accountant, and tax preparer, I am always working with the law and thinking about potential financial impacts of this podcast. The opinions, views, and expressions in this podcast are my own. The knowledge, however, I will always source. I've read books, podcasts, movies, I've done research, I've lived through harsh realities. Life is the real teacher for me. Hopefully I can pass some knowledge on. Enter at your own risk. I've worked with the police, lawyers, and CPS, detectives, psychiatrists, therapists. I did have college courses about psychology. I've been through behavioral and cognitive development myself, so I also have experience there. All in all, my podcast is broadcasted using the Fair Use Act or disclaimer, in which a copyrighted work, especially music, can be used, cited, or incorporated within another author's work legally, yes, legally, without needing a license. If content is being used explicitly for things like teaching, researching, commentary, or other such uses, which is exactly what I'm doing here. So I do believe I am protected under the law, and if you know something that I do not know about this, please let me know. A little bit about myself to reintroduce myself now that it is 2024. I'm gonna start with the good, then I'm gonna move on to the bad, and then I'm gonna get to the ugly. The good. I definitely have pure intentions as a human. I know who I am and I know what I bring to the table. I was certainly raised right. My parents never argued, that is not a lie, and they kept us out of their personal business, which I think is very mature as parents. I really just want to have what my parents have. My parents have been married for 38, 39 years. They're high school sweethearts, and that's pretty rare these days. So that's the example of love that I have always seen and value and hope that I get to experience one day. I am a twin, and I have an older brother who has a mental illness, and I do believe that is one of the main reasons why I am a nice person, because I've heard and seen and experienced a lot with what my older brother has gone through, and this world can be very cruel. Again, that's another life experience that I have that I can share and shed light on. I enjoy being a light in this sometimes ever so evil world, and I like to make people laugh. This podcast has been funny in the past, and I do hope that it makes people laugh, but it is pretty dark, so I'm not quite sure, but I will try to crack some jokes as much as possible, because that's just me. So I'm gonna try to be myself as much as possible. I might seem a little nervous because this is my first YouTube video ever, so So usually I'm not on camera as well. Usually I'm just talking with my voice on a recorder. And so this is a lot different for me. So I need to break out of my shell a little bit as the episodes go on. I am from Northern California. I am from the country in California. When I moved to Texas, which is where I'm currently at, it seems more city than where I'm from in California. So it's definitely backwards. I have 3 college degrees thus far, so I am a good resource for you. Right now, I'm juggling approximately 70 hours of work per week for the past 7 months. I'm super tired. I also go to personal training 3 times a week, have to fit in cardio the rest of the week. I have a dog child. I absolutely adore him. His name is Henry. You can find him on Instagram at I Love American Cockers. He's very cute and I don't think you'll regret it. I also balance a social life, podcasting, and other hobbies, especially reading. This podcast was my best friend's idea. My best friend from 4th grade to this very day. And she's getting married soon. And yes, I'm her maid of honor and I'm so excited and I'm so ready. But I would always call her over the years, especially being in Texas, and we would just laugh and laugh and laugh about my dating life and everything that was going on. So that's how the podcast started. It was very humorous and comedic to begin with, and now it's definitely going to take a dark turn. I've been in healthy and happy relationships, like I said before. There is a difference so far between California men and Texas men. I didn't have any really trying times with relationships I had in California, but since I've moved to Texas, I have been older in the dating game, and being older in the dating game definitely comes with a vast array of what to expect. I was in a 7-year relationship with my high school sweetheart. It was young love. We split when I believe I was 24 years old, so I was wrapped up with him from like the age of 17 to 24, and that's a huge reason why I'm single at 30, is because I spent so many years tied up. 7 years is a very long commitment. It's longer than most marriages these days. A lot of people that I've talked to and a lot of things I've heard and experienced are people these days have shorter marriages, maybe 2-3 years, maybe 5 years. So I really pride myself in the fact that I was able to maintain a loving relationship for 7 years. That really taught me a lot. I have been engaged. I have lived with multiple boyfriends, so I have that experience as well. I have had a relationship without attraction. I've experienced that. I have been hidden in a relationship before. I was with a man for 1.5 years here in Texas, and his parents had no idea that he even had a girlfriend, and it was because he was recently divorced and embarrassed. His dad was a pastor, so that was I wasn't hidden from his entire family, but his parents I was hidden from. So that one was always super confusing and weird. I have had relationships with various types of men: funny men, confident men, country boys, potheads, divorcees, single dads, emotional men. Emotional is good. If you're too emotional, leave that to the woman. Oh gosh, that sounds a little harsh. I'm not being very nice. My obsession is Machine Gun Kelly. I absolutely adore him. And my ex-fiance was his twin. So I was in a lot of trouble. My expectations in a future relationship are off the charts, higher than ever before. Slow and steady wins the damn race. I want to see a man's true colors before any decision is ever made regarding being official. True colors are huge because typically the man's true colors come out after maybe 60 to 90 days. And sometimes I've hopped into relationships quicker than that, and that has been the issue, is not waiting for their true colors to be exposed and get to know them as a person prior to entering such a serious relationship. I've gone back and forth over the years about celibacy, which is not having sex until marriage. And I've been there, I've done that. I might go there again, I'm not quite sure. And I have a broken picker. Since I've moved to Texas, have had a broken picker. Like, I cannot pick the right man. So I'm gonna spend a lot more time on picking the right man. All right, moving on from the good, there's the bad. I have this huge flaw. I am too nice. This can be dangerous. I have been taken advantage of. I typically attract narcissists. I'm an empath, duh. I have depression, I have anxiety, I have exhaustion. These are things that come with being a nice person. You can be depressed because you give all your energy to others. I have anxiety because you're always wondering how others are doing and not focusing on yourself. And exhaustion from just, once again, putting all your energy into others. I struggle with boundaries. I didn't. When I was younger, I did not struggle with boundaries, but for some reason, since I've moved to Texas, I have had some issues with boundaries. The men have crossed my boundaries, and I saw it as like, oh my gosh, this is true love. Like, I don't have to have boundaries, but I definitely need to keep those boundaries up for longer than I have in the past. I have been a people pleaser. I am coming out of that phase in my life. I've read a few books, which I will refer to in the future, that have helped me cure my people pleasing. You can have guilt as a nice person, feeling guilty that maybe you're not doing all that you can to help and be there for others. I can be naive as a nice person. I rarely ever ask for help. It feels odd to me to receive help. I feel out of place, but I offer others help all the time, and it makes me feel really good. So I need to learn that if someone is helping me, that maybe it also makes them feel good, and I need to learn how to accept help. As a nice person, I am robbed of my own time sometimes because I'm always making myself available to others. I lag sometimes in life, single at 30, because I'm busy boosting others. And an example is this motherfucking podcast. I need to learn, and we will talk about moving past being overly nice for you nice girls and nice guys out there that are just like me. I want to use my head over heart when it comes to relationships, but in the recent past, I have certainly used my heart over my head, which isn't always the greatest thing. I live and have lived through rose-colored glasses. I believe that the world is full of roses and everybody is as nice as me, and I just get shocked when someone isn't nice or isn't a light or isn't themselves. And yeah, so I definitely have rose-colored glasses on. I'm phasing out of that. I've been phasing out of that, but it's definitely hard. I'm nice, so I want to believe that others are nice too. Is that so hard to believe? I don't know what to say there. Being too nice, I have had wishful thinking in relationships. Wishful thinking is the formation of beliefs based on what might be pleasing to imagine rather than on evidence, rationality, or reality. So I stayed with my ex-fiance for so long, a few years, up until I was 30, because I had wishful thinking. And because I love the potential of men, not the actual reality, I have an issue with that. I always believe in change. When a man tells me he's going to change and straighten up, I believe in him because I know that I would do that, and I believe that others might be like myself. I also believe that therapy and psychiatry could help a relationship if things are not working out perfectly. That is also another reason why I stayed in this relationship longer than I should have. So that was the good, that was the bad, and now it's on to the ugly. Life is like photography. You need the negatives to develop. That's a good quote. But mainly this podcast is about the severe abuse that I endured from my ex-fiance. There are 8 main categories of abuse that I went through: physical abuse, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse or emotional abuse, financial or material abuse, modern slavery, neglect or acts of omission, and self-neglect. At one point, I called the suicide hotline, I think it was 19 times in a course of 3 months. And also Christmas morning, I was on the phone with the suicide hotline. And my name is Holly, and that's a Christmas name, and I love Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday. So to be on the suicide hotline bright and early Christmas morning with my ex-fiance, that was a really, really dark time. Additionally, things that I will address in my podcast this season, and much more where this came from, but just a tidbit of what we will be discussing is I was charmed and I was love bombed. It led to stonewalling, intimidation. He was controlling. He was oh so manipulative. I was isolated from the world. He had extreme jealousy. He actually accused me of cheating, I'd say almost every day, multiple times a day. I was gaslighted, I was dehumanized, I was mocked, I was belittled, I was sabotaged, and boy was he a liar. There's a lot more where that came from. So the first book that I'm going to refer to in this first episode this season is a book titled Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. This is a really good read. Almost every word of this book speaks to me or screams at me. I can in-depth listen to every single word because I've listened to this one on Audible. Sometimes I listen to books, sometimes I read. But this one I listen to when I'm driving to work and stuff like that. But almost every single word, almost every example is relatable of an entire book. So that was a very good recommendation from my current therapist. Thank you. I do have podcast episodes from the past that are about dating, having standards, recognizing red flags, setting boundaries, etc. I've read the books, I've done the research, I've been to therapy, I've lived it, but for some reason, in some situations, I can't always be perfect, and even though I had those things, they ended up deteriorating. So how the fuck did I end up here if I had high standards? Like, does that make any sense? We'll certainly get to that in this podcast. Be on the lookout for my favorite clips of my past episodes. I'm not gonna be putting up the entirety of my past seasons, but I will be choosing my favorite clips from them. They were very long, maybe an hour and a half episodes, and I want to just keep things short to keep people's interest. And so I'll be putting tidbits of interviews and podcasts and content from the past. So watch out for that. Also, I am beginning a Spotify playlist for the songs that you will hear, and this Spotify playlist is titled Nice Girls Finish First. I will add it to my socials so you can find it, but when you do hear music in my podcast, you will be able to find the song on this playlist. And I have created a playlist in the past from my prior seasons of this podcast, and it was called Narcissist Free. I have that Spotify playlist as well on my socials if you want to take a listen, and I always add to that playlist as well because I'm currently still going through becoming narcissist free. Stay tuned for episode 2 titled Twin Flame, where I talk about the highlights, or shall I say lowlights, of the story between my ex-fiance and I. We'll give a brief high-level perspective and describe how it all happened and why I stayed so long. Grow with me, learn with me. Therapy is expensive, I would know. And this is like free therapy for you, so definitely listen in next time and share. Thank you.
In the bad times, I fear myself.